Professor Mark Williams, who is a former director of Oxford Mindfulness Center, says that mindfulness simply means knowing what is going inside and outside, moment by moment. So moment to moment awareness is mindfulness. Staying in the present moment is mindfulness. It sounds simple, it is simple, but you need to learn the techniques. You need to learn those exercises. And I'm inviting you to join this online course and benefit for a peaceful life. Namaste, and you're all very welcome to this show that we call My Mind, My Friend, where we bring you experts in their own area, where they come and explain you how to live more happily and healthily in your body and mind. So, in today's show, first of all, I want to point out that today is a very special date, which is 02/02/2022. I don't know if you have already noticed that. So, 2 is a number that signifies feminine energy, and it is also a symbol of grace and power. So, when we talk about number 2 and feminine energy, then the name that comes to mind is Durga. Durga is also a symbol of power. So, let's welcome today's guest from Durga Yoga, none other than Paula Mitten. Namaste, Paula. You're very welcome.
Namaste.
How are
Sorry,
you?
Aparna, I had an echo in my ear. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, if you want to switch or change, that's okay. Do you want to remove and see if it works better? See if it works better.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is there an echo?
I think I can hear myself also.
Oh no.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Is there an echo?
I think I can hear. It's okay. I can let you sort that out.
Okay, I put the headphones back in.
Yes.
We'll
Is it
try
better for you? Is it okay?
I'm hearing a delay. Everything is coming twice.
Oh no. Okay. So do you want to change anything about your system? I can send you backstage and I will give your introduction in the meantime.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So, according to Bhagavad Gita, yoga is the journey of the self to the self through the self. Yoga is really a journey where sometime you discover yourself in a very new way that you would have never thought. And this is a beautiful journey. And when you decide that first step, whether I should go further on this path rather than just practicing yoga, and the day when the first thought comes that you want to do a yoga teacher training, it may only remain a thought or it may become a fruitful thought, a productive thought, a thought that brings you further on your yoga journey. And that's when you decide to become a yoga teacher. For me, it was almost 3 years since the first thought occurred when I wanted to become a yoga teacher. So it took me 3 years to um, execute that decision. So today's guest, Paula Mitten, I'm going to introduce her. First of all, I will bring her on the stream back and hope that her system might work better this time. Hi, Paula. So how is it now? Is it still the same?
It's still the same, but I'll do my best.
So I want to introduce Paula Mitten is an internationally recognized yoga teacher and yoga teacher training facilitator. She is the owner of Durga Yoga Ireland and the creator of Yoga Teachers Masterclass. She has been teaching yoga for 14 years and facilitating teacher training since 2011. Paula's passion is supporting yoga teachers from all over the world to establish and grow their own yoga businesses through in person and online coaching. So, when you think of becoming a yoga teacher, you may have questions such as, how do I know if I'm ready for yoga teacher training? How do I choose a yoga teacher training program? Because there are so many out there, and especially in today's world when everything is online and you have better option and more options. But sometimes more options make it more complex for you to choose that very important decision to choose the right person, the right institution, and somebody who can give you that confidence and support to become a yoga teacher. So I want to start by asking you, Paula, that you have been running this yoga teacher training for a very long time. So first of all, where are you joining us from today? Where are you now?
I am joining you from my virtual studio, which is in County Meath in Ireland. Um, it manifested because of COVID. I originally had a brick and mortar studio in Maynooth in County Kildare, and we went through, I'd say, maybe 6-7 months of the first lockdown, continuing to live stream from the studio that I had in Maynooth. And about October in 2020, I decided to let go of the studio and invest in my garden studio, which is where I am now, and really invest in the online world. So I created this space specifically for online and really for the online teacher trainings. That's what I've created it for. And, you know, at the time, I wasn't sure what way things were going to unfold, but I knew that I really needed to have this space for what I was doing in the moment. So that's what I did. I bought the studio. It was lifted in with a crane, and
Wow.
we set it up with lights and screens and everything else. And this is where I've been teaching ever since. And it's my favorite space that I've ever taught in. I absolutely love it. So yeah, it's down the end of my garden.
Yeah, so it's almost like nearly 2 years, is it, that you're
Yeah, I'm in here certainly a full year. Yeah, and I love it.
So tell us a little bit about your upcoming 200-hour teacher training program. When is it starting, and what's the procedure if people want to register or they have any question, like how can they reach out to you?
Yeah. So my next teacher training program is in March. It's online, so you can join from anywhere in the world. It starts the 5th of March. And really, it's for anyone who has been practicing yoga. If you've got an interest in yoga and you want to learn more, you don't necessarily need to want to be a yoga teacher. That's something that is really important to know. For a lot of students who are thinking about signing up, that's one of the big questions that I get, like, do I have to want to be a yoga teacher to sign up? And the answer to that is no. A lot of people who sign up originally, what they're looking for is to deepen their experience of the practice, to learn more about the history, the origins of the practice, the philosophy, maybe to advance their physical practice, you know. And for a lot of people, that's the main experience that they've had before they take the training, that they've gone to the physical asana practices, and they just want to know more about that, or they want to add in meditation, or really to create some space in their life for themselves. to take time out and really just focus on themselves. So that's why a lot of people will join. That's who it's for. Of course, if you want to be a yoga teacher, this is the perfect step to take. But it's not, a lot of the time, it's not why we step into teacher training. So it could be a case that you think, well, it would be nice to teach, but I'm not sure if I'll ever actually teach. And that's where most of the students who join teacher training, that's normally where they come from in their headspace. How to enroll in a training, it's really important that we get to have a conversation before anybody enrolls. It's very unusual that somebody would just book into a teacher training without having a conversation with the trainer. Because it's a big step, it's a transformational journey, as you know, and I suppose it's very unique. Like, each training is unique, and like you were saying at the beginning of the interview, how do you choose? How do you know which training to go for? That happens in a one-to-one call. It happens in a call with me. I sit down, I speak to you, I find out why you want to take the training, what you enjoy about the practice, what type of practice you enjoy, what you're looking for out of this time together, and then any concerns, any questions that you have. And I'll be, as people who have worked with me or spoken to me know, I'm very honest. I'm 100% honest. So I will tell you whether I think this is the right step for you, or whether I think that our training is the right step for you, or whether there's a training that would be a better choice for you. If there's something that I think would suit you better, I will also tell you that. So that's really the best thing that you can do if you're considering becoming a teacher, or you're considering taking a training, is to actually go on our website, book a call, and then actually take the time to sit down and have the conversation to see, is this right? Is this the right step? Because you'll have lots of questions, and I've never spoken to anyone who didn't have some concerns or some queries about whether they're ready or whether our training is the one for them. And like you say, there's so many trainings to choose from. How do you know? You have to know that you like the trainer. You have to know that it's the right style. It has to work with your work, family, life commitments. So that's really what we talk about in the call. It's not
When you say about the style, Paula, so that is a very good, question, because when I came for yoga teacher training, I didn't even know what style I will be learning. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do yoga teacher training. So what styles are there, and how would one know that what style would suit them? Should they be inquiring about that?
Yeah, there's so many different styles, if you want to call it styles, of trainings, and I suppose they all have the same roots, right? I mean, they all come from the same place, but there's a big difference between training as a hatha teacher or training in a vinyasa training. And vinyasa is the style that we teach. So it's a dynamic type of practice. We practice sun salutations, or Surya Namaskars, where you're moving and linking the poses together and moving with the breath. And so it's taught in a different way, it's practiced in a different way than, for example, a hatha style class, which is individual poses. We're not linking them together. Maybe you might prefer a dynamic type of practice, and if you sign up for a training that's a very slow, kind of individual practice, where you're doing a pose and you're spending a long time in it, and then you're coming out of it and going into another pose, then you're going to find, well, this is not the training for me. This is not the practice that I enjoy, and vice versa. So Yeah, so I think it's important you don't need to know the names of the styles, right? There's so many different styles, and most students don't know one from another, but
Yes.
you'll know whether you like to sit in a pose for a very long time, or you'll know if you like to move from one pose to the next, or if you like it to be more high energy, or you prefer to stay closer to the ground, or maybe you like a hot class, you like to practice in a heated room, and so on. So it's kind of, these are the things that we discuss really when we're on a call. Before we take teacher training, a lot of the time we don't know any difference. Yoga is yoga. And to me, it is all like the poses are the same, but we practice them in a different way.
But would you say that maybe it will be helpful if they have taken class before for Hatha style yoga and Vinyasa style yoga? So whatever they click with more, would it be more suitable to go for that style of yoga teacher training?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Whichever one you prefer to practice yourself is absolutely the style to train in, because one, you're going to enjoy your training. Every moment of your training you're going to enjoy. And then if you do go on to teach, you want to teach the style that you love to practice. Like, that's important. Otherwise, you never really feel authentic when you're teaching. It's, you're teaching something, but you're practicing something different. So, so a lot of people that come to our teacher training, especially now these days, will have taken a class at some point with me, because we do so much online now that it's kind of easy to take a class with somebody and see that, make sure that you enjoy the style and that you enjoy their style of teaching, which can be very different to another teacher.
Yes. And what have you seen in all these years when you have trained so many teachers? Like, what is their main, like, what are they scared of before signing up for your yoga teacher training program? What are they afraid of before taking that big step and saying, that's it, I'm going for it?
So I think one of the biggest things that I hear is that they're worried that they don't know enough, that they're not ready. Like usually it's a little self-doubt, like, will I be able for this, or is everybody who takes this training, are they all going to be extremely advanced? Like, and when I say advanced, you'll know that once we get into training, there's no such thing really as advanced. Once you're practicing, everybody's practice is going to look different, and it's very unique to you. It's not about who can do the fanciest pose. That's not what the yoga practice is about. But when we're coming into a teacher training, in our minds, we think that everybody's going to be practicing in a certain way. So it's usually, am I ready? I'll get a lot of questions like, I can't do handstands, or I can't do a headstand, or I'm not that flexible. Yeah, I know. I get a lot of people saying, well, I'm not really that flexible, but I'd like to do a teacher training. Or there's usually a pose. There's a pose that they can't do and they're worried about, or there's there's an area of their practice that they're concerned about. So that's kind of like the big one. And for me, that's got nothing to do with whether you can do teacher training or not. Like, once you're practicing, once you've been going to classes, or you've been practicing at home yourself, you've been, whether it's online or personal practice, that's the key. We're not gauging one person to another, because the yoga practice is so far from that. And to be a teacher, we're not showing off. It's not a performance. We're not showing off what we can do on the mat. We're teaching what we love and what has transformed our lives to other people. We're sharing our passion with other people. So, so straight away, that's something that, I'm going to say you don't need to worry about. That's not the point, and that's not what I'm looking for in people signing up or people qualifying at the end as well. That's not a thing. The other thing is self-confidence, like, will I be able to teach? Like, I can't imagine how I would go from where I am now to being able to teach at the end. And again, that's, it's everybody worries about those things. We never feel quite ready to step into, to be a yoga teacher. But myself and Jenny Lee, who's my co-teacher on the training, it's our job to take you step by step through the training to get you there, right? So we're really good at what we do. And you can trust that we will do everything that it takes to allow you to be able to teach, and you will be ready. You will feel ready to teach when you're finished. But you don't need to worry about that at the beginning. You just want to come in with the mindset that you're here to explore and enjoy the experience, and take this time for yourself and take on board, absorb everything that you can from the training, and then trust the process that it will unfold and you
Yes.
will be able to teach at the end.
So when you said to digest the information and to take in all the information, so is there a different type of training that some trainings are probably 1 year, 2 year long, and some trainings are intense and you are done with your training within few months or few weeks? So how would someone know which type of training or schedule will work for me? And would you have any advice on that?
Yes. Yeah. So the thing with the different lengths of trainings, we all cover the same number of hours. So if you train in an intensive training, which might be 3 or 4 weeks, or you train over 3 months or a year or 2 years, the standard number of hours is 200 hours. Okay. And they're not all contact hours, but we all cover the same number of hours, contact hours, in your training. And so what differs is whether you're spreading it out over longer or you're doing it in a shorter period of time. And that's going to be unique to everybody, which one will suit them. I think most people will look at their lifestyle, whether they prefer to kind of immerse themselves, or whether they have the luxury to do it in a shorter period of time or a longer period of time. What I find is that when it's spread out over like a year or 2 years, what often happens at this level, at the 200-hour level, which is the first step into teacher training, is that we do a bit, we do a weekend, and then we're off for a month, forget all about the training and everything that we were learning. We come back in another month, and like we're catching up maybe the night before we have to go into training, right? So you don't really use the time in between for extra study or extra practice or anything like that. When it's closer together, we tend to be immersed more. There's less time to forget about what you were doing the last weekend. You just come in the next weekend and you're straight back into it. So I've experienced 3 different ways of training. I've experienced intensive over 3 to 4 weeks. And I teach 3 months now, over 3 months. And I've also experienced a 2-year training. And what I found was that the 3 months works really well. From what I've seen with our students, our graduates, and what I've experienced myself as a student, is that the 3 months works because we can spread it out a little. We have a week in between, sometimes 2 weeks or 3 weeks in between our weekends, but not long enough that we can forget about everything. And it's still fresh in your mind. And so I feel like if you can do it that way, it's great. But ultimately, it comes down to how your family life is, how your work life is, and how you can fit it in to to work for you. Okay, so there's no, that's a bit of a wishy-washy answer. There's no right way for everybody. There's a
Yeah.
right way for you.
It's really whatever schedule and they think if it is going to work out. So your training, which is starting soon, sorry, can you remind us the date again?
It's starting on the 5th of March.
5th of March. So how many weeks it is going to be? How many weeks long?
It is, it's a little over 3 months. So it runs until the 19th, I think, of June.
Okay.
So yeah, just
And
a
is it
little over
every
3
weekend?
months. It's not every weekend. It's about every second weekend. So weekend on, weekend off.
Okay. That's quite nice.
Say that again.
I think it's quite nice that they get one weekend on and one weekend off.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It gives you time to go back. I mean, the work in between the weekends is really just going back over what we've done and, refreshing it in your mind, maybe practicing if you've somebody to practice on, and kind of being ready to come in, because we cover all the content in the weekends that we're together. We cover everything with you, but then it's really good to go back and look over what we've done and sort of refresh it in your memory. So it gives you enough time to do that, and then we're back in again. So.
And vinyasa is quite a modern style of yoga, which is hugely popular, especially in the Western world. And it kind of works for our modern bodies because the way the creative intelligence, like you said, that you create intelligent class sequence, and they will be prepared to, you know, create those sequences, because that can be quite scary for somebody. Oh my god, how will I be able to do it? My teacher does it so seamlessly and it doesn't seem hard. But another question that someone might have, that is Sanskrit a part of which is a very ancient language, and people have no clue who are joining from other than India. So should they be scared of Sanskrit language because downward facing dog might be called Adho Mukha Svanasana, tree pose might be called Vrikshasana? So do you think they need to learn all of those names?
So I think it's important I do think it's important to learn Sanskrit. The way that we do it is we'll give you the Sanskrit names for the English and the Sanskrit names for the poses. And then in the philosophy, there'll be Sanskrit words that we use. But we always will, we do the English and the Sanskrit. So, you're getting the translation. There is definitely, some people do come in with a little fear, or when they hear the words, they have a little fear around it. Some people have never heard any of the Sanskrit words because they're not being used in classes. Personally, adding in a little is really nice. I think it's a nice thing to do, to hold on to the tradition of the practice and the roots of the practice. We don't have to know everything, in my opinion, I don't think we need to know every single pose in Sanskrit. And we teach to use both, to use and to translate, if you're using Sanskrit, to say the English name as well, so that your students start to learn some of the words. And, I have students who picked up the Sanskrit from being in the classes and are so happy and proud of themselves that they can, that they can say some of the names of the poses in Sanskrit. So I think it's nice, but I don't think it's something to be worried about. Where, it's you'll definitely come out with some Sanskrit words for sure, but you don't have to have every single pose. That's,
Yes, I totally
some people
agree with that,
will
because
learn language easier than others, right? And it's something you can study, and you can tell us more about that. Like, that's something you can go on and study if you're interested in Sanskrit. We simply touch the surface of it, like very, very small amount.
But I really loved, because I have done your yoga teacher training, and I was really, touched by how much the ancient wisdom and the ancient practices, the roots have been retained, because there was good bit of emphasis on the philosophy, the meditation, the Sanskrit names, and everybody had an option to choose whatever they found works for them. And then we were all helping each other to learn those names. So I think it's a really exciting time. I mean, more than nervous, I you should be excited for and be curious about this journey, which will unfold in its own way, and you will get through. That's all I can say, because my biggest fear was, I came to yoga teacher training because I was more into Raja Yoga, more into meditation, more into mindfulness. But I loved the physical aspect of the training, because probably that's what was lacking for me. But somebody else might find some other part of the training which might be more appealing for them.
Mhm.
So
And
I want
actually,
to
that
mention here that Swami Vivekananda said meditation can turn fools into sages. But unfortunately, fools never meditate. So you will definitely be meditating when you attend any 200-hour teacher training program, because meditation is also an integral part of your yoga teacher training, and your teachers will support you in that process. And Paula, another question is about funding the training, because somebody might say that, oh my God, I can't afford the fee. Would you prefer that people who have question about how much is the training program to reach out to you, or would you like to give them some idea about the cost of the training?
Yeah, I mean, I'm for me, I don't want money to stand in the way. So I always like to speak to people about if they've concerns about the price of the training, then I'm really happy to talk individually, because obviously um, every person has their own unique circumstances. Um, what I will say is that yeah, if you're in a position to pay in full, then there's savings to be made. So at the moment, it's €2,500 pay in full. It's €3,000 with a payment plan. We often do like sales on the training, so there's ways to save on it. Um, but I suppose it really is about investing in yourself. It's about really spending money on yourself so that you can fill your cup. And yeah, I mean, I suppose people are coming into it for different reasons. So sometimes people want to talk to me about the business side of things, like, about the investment, and other people are doing it because they're doing it for themselves. So depending on what the reason is behind coming into the training, then I can talk a little bit more specifically to you, like, one to one. Yeah.
Thank you, Paula, for answering majority of the questions that I had to ask, because other people have these questions in mind. But if you are watching live and you are thinking of taking this training, this is your chance to ask your question now. You can just write in the comment box, and we will be able to see your question, and Paula can answer your question. So please feel free to contribute. If you have done teacher training before, how was it for you? What was the experience? Or what would you advise to future aspiring yoga teachers? Because on Paula's website, it says that the world deserves excellent yoga teachers. And that is so true, because the change is happening slowly but steadily. the world really, after COVID, more than ever, need more yoga teachers. And according to a 2016 study in America, they found that the number of practitioners since 2012 has increased by 50%. And there are about 36 million people yearly, and practitioners are spending, like they were spending 10 billion, but now they're spending 16 billion dollar. So it's a big industry. Yoga industry is a big business even, but it is up to you. Like, not everybody wants to make a full business out of it, but some people do. So it's like, there is a saying, it says, teachers don't teach for the income, teachers teach for the outcome. So it is up to you what you are planning, whether you are teaching for income, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're teaching only for the outcome, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're teaching for both, excellent. Income and outcome.
Yeah, and I always say that, like, as a teacher, we're always in service. We're serving the people who are in front of us, and it's so important that we can reach as many people as possible. Like, I remember when I started practicing yoga thinking, like, why didn't I discover this a long time ago? If I wish I had have known this practice as a teenager in school, when I was struggling with studies and all of that. And so I think the more people we can reach with the practice, the better. And we have to be open to receiving also. So it's okay to make money out of it, as long as you're coming from a place of service. So it's not about, you're not giving to get, you're giving because it's really important to you to give, and then you're open to receiving.
Yes. And one more important question, Paula, that people might have in the mind. So, if they sign up for your teacher training program, will they get enough material to take home? Will they have to buy books in advance? Like, I got this manual, which I can show, and it really is so handy because you can always go back to it whenever you want to, and you can look into the poses and you can practice either for yourself, or if you're going to teach a class, it's always handy to have the book. So now in the online format, do they get a soft version of it, or do they still get a book?
Yeah, actually, now that we're online, they get it as a PDF. It's free. They also have access to our membership site. So although the whole training is live, we record everything, and then we upload the recordings into the membership site. So in between their training sessions, they can go in and study and take the classes again, take the meditations again, which is amazing. It's something we never had before. They have the training manual, and once they can download it, they can print it, or they can keep it as a download, and that's included in their training. And then we ask them to buy just one book, which is called The Perfect Chaturanga. And I work with Jenny Lee Toner, which is another benefit of the pandemic. I got to have the author of the book that we use working on the training now. She's my co-teacher. So we use the training manual and the Perfect Chaturanga quite a lot during the training, and then you have to go back and to use again and again. And it's actually something that I've been told by many of our teachers who graduated, even years and years after graduation, or maybe they go on to do other trainings, but they still go back, they take out the training manual that they had with us, and they're still using it, which is incredible. That's, that makes me
There are
happy.
lots of advantages actually doing an online version, because like we never had that access to the membership site, or that you can go back and do that same class again. So that's absolutely wonderful. And another question, Paula, that like if somebody is worried that will I be able to learn the cueing techniques or anatomy and physiology. There is a lot of, and you are actually quite good. You have an extra training in anatomy of yoga, isn't it? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, sorry, I missed the very start of your question. Do you want me
Yeah,
to
it
tell you
was
about the
about
anatomy?
cueing techniques because
Yeah.
giving a cue, I think it's the biggest art and it is so important in yoga. And for that, sometimes you need a good basis of understanding the human body, really. And
Yes.
for me, because I come as a nurse from a health profession, it was not that hard. But for somebody who's coming straight away, will they be able to learn the anatomy of human body?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, it is something that people um, maybe they might not think about it coming into a training, but once, like often even, initially after the first day, suddenly they start thinking about the anatomy. Um, Anatomy is really important. It's important as a yoga teacher because you're working with the body. And the way that we teach anatomy on our training is very much like from the basics. So, like right from scratch, the bones, the joints, um, and then layering on top the tendons, the ligaments, the muscles. Right, we layer and layer, but we start with the very, very basics, and our anatomy training is very much about um, what's important to move your body and what's important as a teacher to be able to teach a safe, intelligent practice. um, so in a 200-hour training, there's only so much that you'll cover in terms of anatomy. It's not like doing anatomy and physiology on its own. So we really choose what's important so that you can teach a safe practice. So as we're teaching you the basics. So if you've had no experience coming in with anatomy, you're going to understand it. And if you've learned anatomy before, it's going to be really applicable because we look at, okay, this is the structure, but then why do we need to know this? What's important? How will that affect how we do a particular movement or how we teach a particular pose? And although yoga isn't all about the poses, when we're working with the body, we have to understand the body and we have to understand why we would or wouldn't do something. So when we're teaching with an understanding of the body, we can say without any doubt, do this and do it in a particular way, or don't do that, and this is why. I always teach our trainees to question everything that they're practicing and everything that they're saying and understand why you would practice in a certain way. Because sometimes, as a student, you can be told you have to do it this way. You have to place your hand here. You have to place your foot there. And if you don't, it's wrong. And oftentimes it's not injurious. It's not physically going to hurt you. It's a specific way of doing it because that's the way that tradition likes to practice it, or that's the way that teacher would like you to look from the outside. And for me, I want to encourage my students to really go inwards. Yes, we have to, we're going into poses. We're going to say, put your hand here, put your foot there. And then how does it feel? And explore the sensation in the pose. And as a teacher, I need to understand the body to know, is that a safe exploration? Or is there something there that could be injurious? And if there's a particular move that I don't like because I feel it might injure a joint or do something that could potentially injure your student, then I'm going to say don't practice it that way. But I'm also going to say, and this is why. and explain why. And otherwise, there's going to be options, and you explore within the pose and you feel the pose and what's right for you. And we work with props, we work with variations, because no two bodies are the same.
Yes,
So
safety is very important.
safety is very important. And I think if you can take that from your anatomy, it doesn't matter if you can't list all the muscles of the body and, you know, all the different things. What matters is that you can teach a safe class. That's super
Actually,
important.
that brings me to next question, which is about the exam. Do they have to give exam? Do they have to pass the exam? Will they be able to pass the exam?
That's funny. That's always a question on day one. On day one, I always have students who are worried about the exam. Yes, there is an exam. When we're teaching you throughout the training, it's continual assessment. So I'm working closely with you right the way through the training. We have teaching assistants as well, and so they're also working with you, sometimes in small groups, sometimes as the whole group, to make sure that you're understanding what you need to understand, and that you're not getting lost. So there isn't a chance that you just get lost in the crowd. That's really important to me. So if we're concerned about you, we will be talking to you at some point along the way. When we get to the end of the training, towards the end of the training, we do a teaching practice, which is part of your exam. So you teach a full class, but you'll have done lots of teaching on the way to get there. So before you get to that final exam, you'll have been teaching 10 minutes and 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, and then your teaching practice, and you'll be practicing at home as well. So that final exam is really for you as the student to know that I do know this, I can do this. Like, it's to give you the confidence before you step out into the world, should you decide to go out and teach. And then there's 2 written papers as well. But again, it's also a way for me to make sure that I've done my job and that you understand what you need to understand. And for you to again know, look at what I've done, like, look how much I've taken in. We have a very high success rate, and we have an overall very high high percentage in the exam for the students who take the training.
Yeah, so yeah, I can promise that, it is highly unlikely that you're going to fail if you have been attending all your classes and you have been paying attention in the class.
And
So
what does
don't
happen?
worry.
There's Cassie. Hi, Cassie. What does happen sometimes, on occasion, is and this is, things come up. So sometimes for students, life happens, and for whatever reason, you might start to struggle, or it's normally, I can't attend. Life, something has happened in your home life, or personal circumstances that are standing in the way of you completing your training. So that's something that I would say could happen more so than failing. We never get to a place at the end of the training where suddenly we're like, oh, what happened? Like, somebody's failed. That doesn't happen. And if that comes up, we will work with you so that you can continue your training in the next training. We don't abandon anyone. So I say a lot these days, the only way you can fail is to quit. Like, if you give up on yourself, then that's the only way that you can fail. We will keep working with you, either in the training you're in, or to help you come into another training to get you to where you want to be, unless you decide, no, I'm done. I just don't want to do it, which doesn't happen.
So any last words of wisdom, Paula, that you would like to give as an advice for aspiring yoga teachers, and even those who are already qualified and they're watching?
So, if you're thinking about it, really book a call and speak to me. The best things that I have ever done have come from taking a leap of faith, doing something that I wasn't sure that I was ready to do. And I think sometimes we just need somebody to say, yes, you are ready, you can do it, you know. And so, yeah, I think if you've been thinking about it, so many people think about it and think about it and think about it, and they're kind of on their own, kind of in their head going over it. Book a call and let's talk about it and see, is this right? It's so much nicer to just be able to make a firm decision, yes it is, or no it isn't, than be in that in between space. And for those who are qualified and teaching, go out to teach with a generous attitude, like with that mindset of service. Like how can I be of service to you? Especially new teachers who go out. Often you might find you're nervous, or you want to get it right. You're worried about it not being perfect. And when we put our focus on the people who are in front of us, when we show up fully in service and think, it might be one person, or it could be a class of 10, it doesn't matter. Whoever's in front of you, what do they need? It's not about you. And when we make it about ourselves, that's where the fear and the doubt and all of that comes up. But when we let go of that and we focus outwards, and what does the people or the person in front of me need in this moment, and all your focus is on them, you can't go wrong. You're not going to do anything that's not going to be the right thing in that moment. Trust yourself that you can serve the people in front of you.
Thank you so much, Paula. I really appreciate you have answered so many questions, and I'm sure that anybody who watches this video is going to find it hard to resist not to take that leap of faith, because as you have said before, that most of your student, one thing in common, they say that it's a life transformational journey, and it really is. And take that trust and go for it. And according to Raja Yoga, they say that with every fresh idea, we make a new impression in the brain, cut new channels through the brain stuff. And that is what we find in the practice of yoga. So if you are taking that leap of faith, if you are, then you're going to create a new channel in your brain, which is called neuroplasticity. So anything that we do can actually physically change the structure of the brain. So you have no idea how much you're going to help your own personal growth and to the world at large. So as Paula has been emphasizing, that do it with the attitude of service. And good luck with the training. And if you have any question, then please reach out to Durga Yoga and Paula Mitten. If you just Google simply the name, it will easily come up for you. Thank you, Paula. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much, Aparna.